As the two symbiote combatants got ready for their blood match, Venom snarled at Midoriya. "Let me take primary control on this one. We can't let them reach perfect symbiosis." Since Venom obviously knew about the symbiote than him, Midoriya let Venom take the wheel, while he would still help in the background with strategies. Venom and the symbiote-infested Todoroki both rushed at each other, locking hands once they met in the middle. While Venom thought he would have the upper hand against his newly born spawn, he was caught off guard when he felt a furious burning sensation on his hands, like he was being burnt off of Midoriya. Todoroki was then able to force Venom to his knees, parts of Midoriya's partner retracted off of his hands and down to his forearms. Then, with Todoroki fueled by the symbiote's primal instinct and his own rage, he began vigorously headbutting Venom while not caring for his own well-being. This pushed Midoriya back, letting Venom reform around his hands. Suddenly, Todoroki's once orange eyes turned crimson as he looked at his father, Endeavor. Todoroki began to howl like a wild animal as the symbiote flooded his mind with thoughts of gruesome ways he could kill his father. But before he could even attempt to attack his father, Todoroki was tackled to the ground by Venom and started getting pummeled by the hulking fists. "Listen to me, Todoroki! You gotta fight it!" Midoriya yelled from within Venom, hoping to get through to Todoroki, but what he heard next sent chills down his spine. I don't want to," Todoroki muttered back as he ignited into a blazing inferno, getting Midoriya off of him. It appeared that the new symbiote was forcing out all of Todoroki's rage and using it to control him, possibly even feeding from it. Midnight and Cementos wondered if they should call off the fight since there was clearly something wrong with Todoroki, but both Venom and Midoriya yelled at them to not end the fight, for they had this. "Don't you remember what you said before all of this? How you were going to destroy us?" Midoriya yelled at Todoroki, getting his attention once again. Then Todoroki got on all fours and began sprinting at Venom like a feral animal. While leaping at Midoriya, his hands became claw-like as he went to slash at Midoriya. Venom, trying to play it smart, bound up Todoroki by creating tendrils and wrapping them around him. But the bindings didn't last long, as they started to burn and dissolve as soon as they made contact with Todoroki's skin. Just like when they locked arms earlier. "How does he keep doing that?" Venom yelled within Midoriya's head, giving his partner an idea. He thought it could have been a result of Todoroki's base quirk, and it also could have possibly affected the new symbiote in some way. While it did make sense to Venom, he built off that theory more. The new symbiote felt off to him, like it was incomplete. It might have been either born prematurely, while also being able to handle Todoroki's quirk gene. With both of them coming to that conclusion, Midoriya and Venom knew what needed to be done. "You gotta trust me, V. Let me take control." With Midoriya taking control, he turned into his more agile and small form, while taking a fighting stance close to the ground. "Listen to me, Before Midoriya could finish his sentence, Todoroki rushed at him, arms stretched out and only fueled by rage. Knowing he wouldn't be able to get through to Todoroki in his current state, Midoriya was forced to jump over the attack. Then, while going on the offensive, he shot webs into the ground while using them to slam his feet into Todoroki's back. The strike almost knocked Todoroki out of the arena, but he barely stopped himself by slamming his claws into the ground. "I'm going to win this! Then I'll expose the monster for everything he's done!" Todoroki roared as he started throwing fireballs at Midoriya, who narrowly avoided them. But then, both he and Venom noticed something that could possibly let Midoriya get through to Todoroki on the inside. "Look at yourself! You said you would never use your left side, but that's all you've used!" Todoroki stood there staring at Midoriya blindly, his body visibly shaking. As he looked down at his hands to see them as massive bear claws, he began crying out, No, I'm not using your damn fire quirk!" Then, while trying to fight the dark and twisted influence of the symbiote, he started trying to rip off parts of the suit, but to no avail. They would regenerate faster than he could tear them off. But something sparked within Midoriya, a form of anger he had never felt before. With Midoriya going back to his monstrous hulking form, he yelled at Todoroki, "It's your quirk, not his!" That remark hit Todoroki harder than any previous attack, as he received a flashback to a time when he was a carefree boy, sitting watching television with his mother. He then recalled watching a program about parents passing on quirks, and how it was up to the children on how they were going to use them. With that positive memory pushing past all the hate and anger in Todoroki's head, The symbiote started getting reduced to dust as Todoroki ignited himself into an inferno, using his other side to generate ice so he could keep burning it. As the last bit of the symbiote was burnt off of Todoroki, he collapsed onto the ground from exhaustion and from the suit overdraining his body, winning the match for Midoriya. While it didn't feel like a proper win to Midoriya or Venom, they still took it, while helping bring Todoroki to the infirmary. But unannounced to them, a small remnant of the baby symbiote, created when Todoroki started tearing the suit off him, snuck its way onto Midoriya. Since it was created by Venom, neither of them could sense it. Midoriya was somewhat shaken up by the thought of killing a baby symbiote, being that he's never killed anyone before. But Venom tried to reassure his partner that it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't uncommon for symbiotes to just dump their spawn anywhere and leave them to fend for themselves. While dark, it was the sad truth of the symbiote race. The semifinals of the fighting tournament were announced. It was Tokuyami versus Bakugo, and Midoriya versus Ida. The fight with Tokuyami and Bakugo played out the same way as it did in the canon. The only significant change was that Bakugo was significantly more violent and angry, this being attributed to being caught off guard by Uraraka's surprise attack a few fights ago, and how he would finally be able to get revenge on Deku for what he had done during the first hero training they did. Bakugo forced Tokuyami to surrender by blasting him out of the arena with explosions fueled by his desire to beat Deku in the finals. After them was Midoriya versus Ida. The match started with both contestants walking out onto the field, greeting each other with high spirits, with Ida unaware on what had just happened to his brother Tensei. When the match started, Ida sprinted straight towards Midoriya. "Mask!" Midoriya yelled out, with Venom covering him, and turning him into their more limber and agile form. As if it was perfectly timed, Midoriya leapt into the air to avoid a side kick to the back from Ida. But it seems that's what he wanted, because as Midoriya got into the air, Ida also jumped up while axe-kicking him back into the ground. Then, while still in the air, Ida yelled out, "Recipro Burst!" With his engines turning blue, he went slamming down into Midoriya with a strong, sweeping kick. But there was something he didn't account for. As Ida made contact with the back of Midoriya's suit, he began to hulk out while its biomass started to wrap around him, eventually covering him completely. Ida couldn't break free of his bindings, since his engines were shot, meaning Midoriya had won the match. Venom thought it was a cheap trick, as he preferred to actually fight it out instead of relying on a trap. With the finals close upon them, Venom and Midoriya sat in one of the waiting rooms, having a quick snack to refuel, when Bakugo came crashing in mistakenly. "Crap! This is waiting room number 2! Bakugo just yelled as he watched Midoriya stuff his face with chocolate and other sweets. Although disgusted and feeling really awkward, Bakugo took a seat across from Midoriya and asked him a simple question. "What the hell is going on with your quirk, Deku?" While not being able to answer due to eating, Midoriya just shrugged, not having a proper answer to give him. Bakugo proceeded to list several things out. First, Midoriya was really a late bloomer. 2, his quirk is radically different from any of his parents. And 3, the quirk itself was far more complicated and intricate than any other quirks that Bakugo had ever seen. Bakugo listed several more items, but the point was made. He was starting to suspect something. His suspicions were only getting worse after seeing what happened to Todoroki. The two rivals just stared at each other. A strong tension filled the air, Midoriya not wanting to divulge his secret of Venom to anyone else, especially Bakugo. "Fine, if you're not gonna tell me, then listen well. Your match with Icy Hot was sloppy. You cared more about getting that goop off of him. But your match with me will be far different," Bakugo announced loudly as he went to leave. But Midoriya stopped him by standing up and wiping his mouth and yelling back, "This won't be like our training, Kacchan. We'll be going all out in this fight." Without even realizing it, Midoriya let slip something he shouldn't have. Bakugo turned around confused and looked at Midoriya, only getting a determined look by the green-haired boy, while strange black tendrils crawled up his neck to his face in the process. Venom also felt the same way. Bakugo just shuffled off while muttering something like, "Yeah, whatever." Midoriya and Venom stayed in the room a bit longer, eating more food before going out to the arena. With massive pillars of flame shooting out of the corners of the arena, President Mike announced it was the final showdown.